Indie Beacon Radio with the host, B. Alan Bourgeois.
Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Welcome to another episode of Indie Beacon Radio. I am your host, B. Alan Bourgeois, and I apologize for the background noise. I am on the road, but I didn't want to miss out on interviewing this author. So please bear with us. If you hear all that background, we are at a favorite coffee shop. So Tarif, welcome. We're glad to have you here with us. Let's start off with, why did you get into writing?
First of all, thank you for having me, interviewing me and introducing me to your readers. I didn't start writing when I was in elementary school. I discovered that I could make stories and I could tell those stories to my friends. So in my opinion, writing is a gift that comes with you. You don't have anything to do with it. Just all what you can do, just use it. Make those stories, tell those stories to your friends. So it's something natural. And I remember when I was in elementary school, my friends used to stick with me during the recess to just listen to my stories. And those stories, they were kind of like mix of what our nanny used to tell us as bedtime stories, and also a mix of the comic books I used to read when I was in elementary school. And here I'm talking about comic books like Superman, Batman, and finally those Arabian Nights story, because the Arabian Night book was the first book I read when I was in elementary school. And believe it or not, that book is still inspiring me today. So my stories, the stories I used to tell to my friends, they were a mix of all that. That's why those stories, they were kind of like unique, one of a kind, a mix of East and West.
You mentioned that the Arabian Nights inspiring you even now. So how is that happening?
Say that again, I didn't hear that.
You mentioned that the Arabian Nights are inspiring you now. How is that?
The Arabian Night, in my opinion, is the most or the greatest fantasy book that has ever written. Talking about those stories of Aladdin, of Ali Baba, Sinbad. I mean, whoever wrote that book, and by the way, nobody knows who wrote that book. A lot of people don't know that. The writer of the Arabian Night book is unknown. Nobody knows who wrote that book. But whoever the writer is, he took his readers to the maximum of fantasy. I mean, the adventure, they were just beyond imagination. And that's what really makes me love that book.
So in the reference of how it inspires you now, I understand you have a book that is coming out that's similar to one aspect of the story. Is that correct?
Exactly. Right now, I have already finished that book. It's a children's book. It's about 7,600 words, and titled Phone Story. And it's kind of like shedding light on a problem like children addiction to electronics, especially cell phones. So in that, it's a kind of like it's a cartoon story, or it's kind of like a Disney style story. It makes the children laugh while they are reading the book, but in the same time, the book is telling them like, phones are for useful use, not for addiction. So they're gonna be laughing while reading it, but also in the same time, trying to pass the message.
Now you have written in other languages, and your home language or your home country is Syrian. What is the home language for that country?
It's the Arabic.
Okay. And so you have how many books out in Arabic, 2 or 3?
Well, let me first explain to you, in the Middle East, there are 24 countries. All of them, they speak the same language, which is the Arabic, regardless what is the name of that country. So all my books so far, I have right now, I have 5 books. All of them, they have the translation from Arabic to English. So each book, half of the book is in Arabic and the other half is the English translation.
So then you've actually done one book, translated it into the English, but put the two together so that people can actually learn from both of them, both as Arabic language as well as the English language. Is that right?
Exactly. For people who are really also interested in translation from Arabic to English or English to Arabic, those books will be great because it's one book, 2 languages. Now I published one book in Arabic only. It's short stories. I'm trying to find time to translate it into English, but so far that book came to the market like late last year. The name of the book in English, it's From the Daily Life of a Syrian Citizen, narrating events that took place with me or stories that took place with me before coming to the United States, when I was still living in Syria and where I was about to be really killed by the Assad regime of Syria.
So that helps us walk into the aspect that you did live in Syria and moved to the United States. So being almost killed by Assad's regime, what does that mean?
Well, Syria, after getting independence from the French back in 1946, it lived under democracy for about 10 years. Then through a military coup, the Socialist Ba'ath Party took over and imposed a socialist Stalinistic style rule in Syria, where talking is considered a crime. So that's why after I just graduated from college, I noted that Syria is not a safe place to live in, not a safe place to start a business or start a family. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and find a place where I can say what I want to say and do what I want to do without being threatened. And that's how I came here. And
now,
that was about 30 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that was several years ago, and even now it's even worse than it was then. So you've written a book about that aspect of being pushed out of your country in some regards. Is it a fictional story with historical aspects, or is it a true memoir? How would you describe it best?
No, those are true stories, and those stories, kind of stories that happened to me. Nobody came and told me that story, like somebody said that to me or somebody narrated. No, they happened to me in person. So I experienced those stories. I was the hero of those stories. So at that time, I could see that Syria is a country that is living on the top of an active volcano. So, and I decided I didn't want to be there when that volcano exploded.
And you definitely have seen the explosion since then. When I was referring to, how the books were written, yes, they are, of course, about you, but did you use it as a historical aspect? In other words, historical fiction, where you added some things into it? Or is it purely step-by-step, this is what happened?
No fiction. It's step-by-step as it is.
Okay.
And it's, I'm sure if that book will be translated into English, this book has 24 short stories, but they are very horrifying stories, explaining to the reader how it is to live under such a regime. By the way, the Syrian regime, I would say the closest regime to it in the world is the North Korean regime, or the Cuban regime, or the Venezuela regime. You don't have rights over there. They only can let you live. I mean, just survive. That's it. You cannot go beyond that.
So you have the one book, 24 short stories and stuff, but you also have a book of poetry, correct?
That short story books was the first short story books I published. All my other books are kind of like poetry. But the kind of poetry I use is different. A lot of people, when they hear poetry, they get scared because modern poetry kind of like very difficult to understand. You need to be highly educated to understand. That's why ordinary people, they try to run away from poetry. They say, oh, that's difficult. We don't like poetry. My poetry is simple. I use simple language where everybody can understand. Even when I translate those poems from Arabic to English, I have a lot of American friends. I let them read those poems and ask them if there's anything you couldn't understand. And if they say yes, then I ask them to help me to make it clear and understandable to ordinary reader.
So would you actually consider it as poetry or something different?
It is, I would call it freestyle poetry. The poetry will rhyme in some poems. It will not in some others. But in the Arabic version, all my poetry should be rhyming. Poetry, by the way, I have something here to share with the listeners. The Arabic language is called the language of poetry, just like the English language is called the language of business. The French language is called the language of romance. The Deutsch language is called the language of war. The Arabic language is called the language of poetry. That tells you that the Arabs are very proud of their poetry heritage. They, almost everybody there can write or say poetry without even being, without studying the poetry as an art. It's something natural.
Okay. Well, this is a perfect spot for us to stop and take a break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
Thank you for watching or listening to Indie Beacon Radio. Our sponsor, IndieLector.store, is the only bookstore that pays authors their fair share for book sales. Help authors to succeed and enjoy a great book by supporting them at IndieLector.store. Enjoy a 10% discount with coupon code SHOPPER20 at IndieLector.store. Coupon valid until December 31st, 2020. That's IndieLector.store, coupon code SHOPPER20.
The 5th annual Authors Marketing Event is coming to Granbury, Texas, July 24th through the 27th. Join us and learn from the professionals how to properly market and sell yourself and your books. Go to ame.authorsmarketingguild.com for all the details. That's ame.authorsmarketingguild.com. We Fiction is a fun, fast-paced writing contest for any author team to create a book based on what readers submit for plot, characters, locations, and even plot twists. Learn more about this unique contest at wefiction.dearindie.org.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back. This is the Indie Beacon Radio Show and your host, B. Alan Bourgeois. We have Tarif with us. And Tarif, I'm not going to massacre your last name, but if you would please properly say it so people fully understand the Arabic value.
Okay, you can divide it into two sections. That would make it very easy to pronounce. It's Youssef-Agha.
Okay.
Youssef is just like, I mean, it's a common name in the Middle East. Also there, one of the prophets' name was Yusuf. Now, the second section, Agha, in the Arabic language, is the landlord. So
Okay.
Youssef-Agha.
Cool. So in the book, you were talking about the 24 short stories about how you left Syria. Give people a feel for one of those stories, not giving away the entire aspect, but give them an understanding of the true grit and determination that it took for you to leave, and the harrowing aspect of leaving.
Well, as I said, to understand life in Syria, you need to understand that there is no law in Syria. I mean, if you are arrested, for example, you cannot hire an attorney. Do we have attorneys in Syria? Yes, we do. But those attorneys, you can hire them to represent you in civil cases like divorce, like land dispute. But if you are arrested for any political claim or charge, nobody can come to represent you, and you might disappear. You might disappear forever. And in one of my stories in that book, I narrated a story of one of our relatives who was taken from his house, aged about 20 years old, and never returned. And even his family, they begged the authorities just to tell him what happened, what did he do? And they never had any answer. And that boy never came back home. He just vanished.
And this has happened to millions of people in your country and stuff. So when you left, did you leave with your parents or did you leave by yourself?
After graduating from college, I just applied for a visa, and I came here by myself. So I came here by myself.
So that must have been really tough leaving your family behind.
We are like three brothers. Also, my two other brothers, they left Syria almost at the same time, but to different destinations. Beside the freedom and democracy problem in Syria, but there's also another problem with the economic problem. Making living over there is tough. It's not easy. I would say maybe 80% or 90% of Syrians, they live under poverty line. As I said earlier, over there you can only survive. You cannot really enjoy life. You can only survive day by day.
Now, you mentioned that you have the middle school book that you're working on. And what was the title of that one?
Phone Story.
Okay, which is educating kids about the phone usage and stuff like that. But you have a magic carpet in there, and that's what I was referring to as far as the Aladdin tales and stuff. What other books are you currently working on?
That's it. This is the only book right now, and I'm really optimistic about this book. I have the feeling that this book, if this book will end in the hand of the right agent and the right publisher, traditional publisher, I have the feeling that this book will make it big because it is the right time to talk about this issue. By the way, there was a show on the CNN the other day talking about the first therapy center open in the US in Seattle to treat the cell phones and electronics addiction. Also, they mentioned like there are many of those centers in Canada.
Yeah, I can imagine that that's going to be a growing institution aspect. And your book definitely has the right momentum and timing for it. There's no doubt to that. But with all the stories you've written and everything, there's nothing else percolating in your back of the brain?
At this minute, not really, because I really like to concentrate on one project in a time. I don't like to work on two projects, especially also regarding my busy schedule in my business. I have a car dealership in Houston, and it takes most of my time. We work there like 10 hours a day. The only day off is Sunday. So if I have any arrangement or any event during weekdays, I have to make arrangements so I can leave. So it's gonna be tough to work on more than one literary project.
I understand that. The community that you're in, Houston is definitely a very vibrant, very multicultural community and stuff. So have you been able to reach out to fellow Syrians and share your book with them?
Well, in Houston, there is a so-called the Syrian American Club, which kind of like they do like civil activities. Like I do poetry recital there. They do also like traditional food events. They do also weddings. So it's a very nice community in Syrian community in Houston. There's also so-called Arab American Culture Center in Houston, which is another big civil club place. So I always in contact with those communities and to organize poetry recitals events.
And that's great. And I'm sure a lot of them appreciate your telling your story and they relate to the story very well and stuff. This is where we're going to take another break for our sponsors and we'll be right back.
Join Texas authors on May 30th in Seguin, Texas for the first Texas Authors Only Book Festival celebrating Texas Authors and Writers Month. Learn more about this fun family event at lonestar.bookfestival.network. That's lonestar.bookfestival.network. And join us at the Seguin Events Complex on May 30th. The 5th Annual Authors Marketing Event is coming to Granbury, Texas, July 24th through the 27th. Join us and learn from the professionals how to properly market and sell yourself and your books. Go to ame.authorsmarketingguild.com for all the details. That's ame.authorsmarketingguild.com.
Well, hello there, my friends. My name is Randy James, independent voiceover producer in the Dallas, Texas area, available to write and record a 30-second commercial, much like the one you're hearing right now. It's a great way to help increase awareness and exposure to your book title. It's easy to do. Simply call me and we'll brainstorm on a few ideas, and in a few hours, I'll whip something up and send you a digital file ready to use. Remember, call or text me, Randy James, at 214-762-1942. Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. This is your host, Beyond Bourgeois, and I have with me Tarif Youssef-Agha. I told you I was going to mess up your last name. Tarif, welcome back. And let's start with the basics. How can people find out about you?
How people can find out about me? Okay, yeah, I have a website, like a page, where I have all my works. You know, the name of it is a Google page called Tarif's Poetry. So if people go to Tarif's Poetry, they find me. Also, I have a page on Facebook. Also, if they Google my name, Tarif Youssef-Agha, they can go to that Facebook page. And also, if they Google my name in general, I have a YouTube page. They can go and listen. I have some poems in English, about like videos about like 10 minutes long each. So I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and also Google.
And just to be clear, there is no website where they can go and find out your schedule, where you're going to be or anything like that. It's pretty much all on Facebook.
Exactly.
Okay. And so as a writer and someone who's written, historical aspect, the memoir and stuff, do you have any words of encouragement or advice for somebody who wants to write that type of story?
Well, The only advice I have, like if somebody really has a story he wants to tell, don't wait, just tell it. Try to find a way also to publish it if possible, because if you don't tell that story, nobody will hear it. And the worst thing in the world, I guess, if somebody has a story he cannot tell. So my advice is, don't waste time. Start making arrangement to tell the story or to publish that story.
Yes, it's kind of like the spoken word historical accounts. If it's not put down in paper, it gets lost over time and generations, or it changes to where it's not really accurate. So
Exactly.
definitely putting it down in paper and having that available for people is really important, especially when they come from a country like yours, where you are dealing with so much political strife, and the only other way I can put it is anger from the political people and stuff. I thank you very much for being with us, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much, Alan, and looking to see you next time, the next event.
Thank you, and take care.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations.
Indie Beacon Radio with the host, B. Alan Bourgeois.
Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B. Alan Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B. Alan Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcord